All right. Lal, how do I pronounce your name? Is it Lawel or Lawel?
Yeah, you are right. Anyone? Lawal.
Can you say it? Yeah, one more time.
Lawal. Lawal. Yeah. Can you hear me? Oops.
Sorry about that. I'm having technical difficulties. This is why I'm running the non-technical part of the data science course. All right. So, yeah, Lawel, feel free to correct me at any point where you get tired of me saying your name incorrectly. Can you, in the chat, can you send me your email address? I'm going to give you access to that. I'm going to give you editable access to that document. All right, welcome everybody else. Good to see all of you coming in here. And while people are getting in, I want to ask, can somebody tell me what this week's assignment is about? What your technical challenge for this week is. Has anyone read it yet?
Yes, I have. Should I just go on?
Yeah, go for it. Why don't you explain it?
Okay, so we are working for a client that wants us to kind of predict the probability that some prospective customer will come on and they will go through with purchasing their stock. So I think it's something around that line. I'm not very sure about it, but I think it's about us trying to build a model to predict the fact that okay, which customers are going to go through with purchasing this stock, so that the clients can know how best to direct their efforts. That they will know that okay, this customer has higher prospect of buying, so there will be the set of customers they will direct the most effort on. So yeah, that's basically what we are trying to do, building a model to show the forecast.
Okay. It's a little bit hard for me to hear you right now. I'm not sure if it's my connection or your connection, but I think I heard you say that there's a gas station where you're trying to understand which customers are coming. Is that no, it's not a gas station. Is there anything you can do with your audio? Maybe speak louder into your mic?
But maybe somebody else should try. I don't know. I can't talk louder than this. Stephanie. Stephanie, maybe you should try. Okay.
Okay, let me go.
Okay.
Great.
Thank
yeah,
you.
David, please.
Yeah, so a bank wants to increase their revenue, and one way that they want to do it is by reducing the cost that they use in marketing. So they just want a data science team to predict the customers that will subscribe to the term deposits. So when they predict to the customers that will subscribe and the customers that will not subscribe, so that now the bank can channel its energy towards marketing, doing calls to the customers that are likely to subscribe, and put aside those who are not likely to subscribe. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, David. I appreciate that. Thank you for explaining that. Well, I think you might have to yell into your mic for me to hear you. Okay, everyone, this is good. Thanks for giving me that. I want to give you a little bit of context around my situation. So for me, the reason I ask you that is I want to understand your situation. I want to understand where your focus is this week, right? And I know many of you are doing other things besides this course, but this is for us to have a shared understanding. From my side, I think I mentioned this last time, but I'm a volunteer and I'm running many other projects. So pretty much the only attention you get from me is this 1 hour and maybe about 30 minutes before this, where I'm throwing together the plans for this session. My goal is to give you as much information of what's in my head as possible that will be useful to you, right? So whatever you can do to help me do that, I really appreciate. Ultimately, it's for you. So whatever you're able to get from me, good for you, right? If you cannot get things from me because we cannot figure out how to make use of this 1 hour, 1.5 hour, that is what it is, right? So this will keep being messy. Today will be messier than last week. Each week will be messy, and that is okay, right? That's what we have. And in life, you work with what you have, right? So that's sort of the context I want to make sure that we're all sharing we have today. So because of that, I'm going to ask for volunteers. Usually when I do training sessions, I would prepare everything myself. But like I said, we have limited capacity. I have limited capacity. So I need more volunteers. Lowell, I really appreciate that you've volunteered. Can I get at least 2 more volunteers? If you can write your name in the Google Doc or in the chat. I just need 2 more volunteers to help me with today's session. We need a note taker and somebody to help us just do some data tracking around the session itself. Great, I see somebody about to write in there. Can I get 1 more person that'll volunteer? All right, wonderful. So I got David, and David, I'll have you do the note taking. Actually, you know what, David? Let's do, yeah. Okay, great. We got Stephanie on note taking. Lowell, because our mics are going to be difficult here, I'm going to actually ask David to switch with you. Okay. And David, I'm going to have you on the tracker. David, can you just message me in the chat? Just message me your email address. Okay.
Okay, sure.
Thanks, David. All right, everyone else, what I want to do is I want to review last week's homework. Sorry, go ahead.
So what would I be doing? Is it the note-taking part?
Great. So for note-taking, anything you feel is worth it to write notes on, I recommend you write it down. If you would write it down, or you would want to remember it, or you would want to explain this to a friend who didn't attend, just write it down. Obviously, people can watch the recording, but I found that having the notes really changes how much people remember things. And it's also just more accessible. It's much easier to skim notes than it is to skim a recording. Okay.
And
so,
me, please come again. My role.
And David, I will give you your role during the breakout session. So you stay with me for a little bit. Okay. Now everyone else, or no, everybody here, I guess I should say, who here, write in the chat if you finished the homework from last week. I saw one person right there put their answer in the Slack. I want to see if anyone else had a chance to finish it. If you did not finish it, tell me if you had any problems or questions or challenges understanding last week's homework. Okay, I'm seeing nothing in the chat. So that makes me think that everyone, okay, great. Samuel didn't know we had homework. That makes me think that no one did the homework except for Anastasia, who I saw posted it. And actually I realized that Anna is not on here unless the name that's gone awry is Anna. Okay, great. Yeah, I guess I'm going to just have to accept that I'm going to do a very poor job with your names, and you'll have to help me if you can. But Wamuyu, I see that you said that you tried to apply data science to your life. You had a hard time doing it. Let's just talk through it very quickly. So today yesterday, I received a notice that in the area that I live in the cities that are near me, there are fires burning. And the fires are large enough that many of us are unable to breathe properly. The smoke is getting fairly bad. And so what this means is that our cities, our local officials, our government, the government is telling us that they might they're giving us a warning that they might send an alarm and ask all of us to leave our homes and to go somewhere else, because the smoke might be bad enough that we might die. The fires might burn down our houses. Great. I see a message here. There's a lack of a big enough problem to use data science on. Great. Okay, so let me get a thumbs up if you understand the situation I'm in right now. Let me just get a thumbs up if you have that. Stephanie, I appreciate that. I'll swim to Kenya. All right, great. So you understand my situation. So now, one of the things that my housemates and I are discussing is, how do we know if this is going to actually happen? Because we can prepare our bags, we can prepare our cars, we can prepare to leave. We can even leave early. We can leave right now. But maybe there won't be an alarm. Maybe the government won't tell us to leave. Maybe there won't be another big fire. We've had 4 big fires, but right now they're not too close to our house. So maybe there won't be a fire that gets to our house. We don't know, right? So now, on one hand, I can say that, hey, this is not a big enough data science problem, right? I don't have enough data to make a good 95% accurate assumption about when the fire will reach my home. I could say that, right? But like we talked about last time, I have to be making decisions. I have no choice. I have to be making decisions in life. That is how life works, right? Can I get a thumbs up if you understand that even if I don't have good data, I have to make decisions? Okay, great. So some of the things I need to understand here is one of the, I could say, the quantified elements that I want to understand is, what is the likelihood, the probability that in a short notice, meaning I have less than 5 minutes, I am told I need to evacuate because there's a big fire where I live. What is the likelihood that that's going to happen? Why do I want to know that? Well, if I have only 5 minutes, then the things I'm going to grab and what I'm doing to leave my house are very different than if I have 2 hours, right? So those are very different kinds of situations. So what I'm doing is scenario planning. But if I have 5 minutes, the way I prepare right now to leave in 5 minutes is that I put everything in the car right now, including food that might go bad, right? And I just take the risk that some of the food will go bad. And I worry a little bit less about that. I make plans. My girlfriend lives in a different house, so I need to go pick her up. So instead of picking her up, I will make plans that she gets a ride somewhere else with her friend. And once we both escape the fires, then we all meet up. One of the dangers here I have to worry about, if in 5 minutes is my warning, I might get stuck on the road and the fire might burn down everyone on the road. So I don't want to be on the road when the fire is on the road, right? So these are all things that I have to think about. So again, I'm making decisions. So now, write in the chat, what kind of data can I use to make this decision? Now, again, I'm not using a database that I can query. I'm not creating a stochastic model. I'm not going to do a Markov chain. I'm not going to do anything very sophisticated here, right? But I need to make some decisions, so I'm going to make some guesses. So what data can I use? Go ahead and write in the chain, what data you think, or sorry, in the chat, what data do you think I can use to determine the likelihood that I have 5 minutes versus 2 hours when I have to leave? Past experiences, great. So last year, the year before, I can be thinking about what happened in previous years. Yeah, that's right, instinct, right? Often I will say intuition. Intuition, now, Lowell, to that point about intuition, intuition is actually made up of data. Your intuition is based on your past experience. It is based on things you've read. It is based on conversations you've had. So your intuition is not data. Your intuition is more like an analysis. Sometimes you don't have time to see what data is in your intuition, and so you don't get to know the data, so you just assume that your intuition is data. You say, oh, my gut feeling is my data. But I want to make sure all of you think about that as two different things. Oh, the reason I want you to think about that as two different things is because your manager has intuition. And when you talk to your manager, when you talk to the non-technical people in your business, even during your interviews, when you talk to them as how, as a data scientist, you're going to help them, they are going to be speaking from their intuition, right? And I point here, but maybe I should point here. Maybe I should point at my gut. They're speaking from their intuition. As a good data scientist, you're going to unpack their intuition. So now in my house meeting with my housemates, there are 4 of us. And one of my housemates said, I don't think we need to worry that we are going to have to leave. I think we don't have to worry about this. And that was their intuition, right? Now, the other 3 housemates, me included, we said, no, we think we should worry, right? But now that's intuition versus intuition. That doesn't get us anywhere, right? So when the other housemates, we unpacked some of the data. Some of the things we talked about, we use the news. The news is a source. The news is not data. The news is a source for data. Does that make sense, Rafaya? Actually, let me ask you as well.
Yeah, it does.
It does? Great. Lowell, by the way, did my point on intuition make sense to you? Okay, great. So the news is my source. Now, what kind of data do you think I might get from the news? Rafaya, what kind of data could I get from the news?
Possibly where the fire is at the present, like presently where the fire outbreak is. or
Great. Yes, no, that's a great one. So I can get information about where the fire is currently, right? So now what other things do I need? Besides where the fire is, what kind of data do I need? Somebody in the chat, go ahead and write down, besides where the fire is, what else do I need?
maybe how fast it's moving.
Great, yes, great. Rafaya, Sigon, great points. How fast? What is the rate at which the fire is spreading? I also need the distance, right? So not just the where, because the absolute location doesn't do anything for me. I need a distance from myself. Now, again, when we're talking about estimations, right? Because ultimately, these are all estimations. I'm not building a sophisticated model. I'm making estimates that I'm going to be using immediately. When we're talking about estimations, I want the capacity to reuse my estimation, right? So I'm going to actually be looking at the distance and the rate at which it's spreading, and I might even set up a couple of notions for myself, right? If it spreads within, if the rate at which the fires are spreading is relatively about 1 kilometer per minute, and the fire is really within a 100-kilometer area, I need to be ready to leave right now, and maybe I'm planning on leaving before the fire, before there's a notice, right? So I might have that kind of information in my mind. What other information might I want? I'll give you a few other ones. So I might be thinking about containment. How well is the government actually stopping the fires from spreading? Because some of the fires the government is fighting, right? And the government is the one I'm relying on for the warning. But maybe I don't want to rely on them to tell me when to leave. Maybe I want to leave before they tell me to leave, right? Especially if I want to avoid the traffic jams, which I just saw, you know, Stephanie and the person whose name is not showing up correctly. Okay, so going, interesting, factors increasing the spread, great. So now here's again where we get information and intuition gets involved. And one of the pieces of information I have is that lightning is part of what's causing fires. So when lightning strikes, that's why the fires are starting. So now we've talked about this, we've discussed it. Before we discussed it, I was actually not doing the calculation of the rate at which the fire was spreading. Because, to be honest, I'm too worried about the idea of my fire burning down. This is how most of your managers are going to be thinking when you're talking to them. Their fires, in their mind, the company is burning down. At any given point in time, the team is burning down. Their managers are yelling at them for not making enough money, not making enough revenue, spending too much money. So whenever you're interacting with somebody, their mental model of what the situation is might be missing important factors. When you are thinking as a data scientist, one of your jobs is to be thinking about all of the different characteristics, the attributes associated with the situation, and any entities influencing the situation. So you want to be able to name what are the factors that are going to lead to a problem occurring. Can I get a thumbs up for anybody who watched the Fermi estimation video? I know I gave you a very short notice to watch it, but can I just get a thumbs up if you watched it? Okay, great. We got 1 person, 2 persons, 3. Okay, we only have a few people who watched it. Okay, no problem. So that'll be part of your homework to make sure everyone does go ahead and watch that. What I want you to do, so the Fermi estimation technique created by I believe his name is Enrico Fermi. The fellow was one of the people who helped create the nuclear bomb. Not a great contribution to society, but they were one of the most brilliant people. The people who worked on that project were some of the most brilliant physicists, statisticians in the world. And Fermi was really well known for being able to make very quick estimations within seconds that were incredibly accurate. A very typical interview question that you will get for programming interviews and data science interviews, at least in the United States. I don't know how it will be wherever you will end up applying. But a very typical question is a Fermi estimation question. When I applied to Microsoft, for example, the question I was asked was, how many hospitals are in the city of Seattle? I forget what I estimated the answer was, but I was right within like maybe 30, 30 hospitals. I think I'd guessed something like 300 or 400, and the answer had been like 330, something like that. But the ability to estimate that accurately is a mechanism that people are looking for for somebody who is able to think technically. It's not that they want you to be doing those estimations for the most sophisticated problems. When you're working on something like a revenue model where you're trying to classify customer groups and determine which customer groups will pay the company the most, in those kinds of environments, that's a model you will be reusing regularly, right? The places where you're going to need to use those estimates are places where you're being asked things that the company is only going to do once or twice. They're not going to have time to do a full-blown model. So they really want your capacity as somebody who's looking at the data, who has, again, to Lawal's point, who has intuition, who can think about the data intuitively. They want you to make these estimates. You're going to be asked to do this a lot. So I'm going to encourage you now to all practice. Oh, great. Lawal, you already said that you've already had one of these. I'm really glad to hear that you've already had the experience. So you have some idea of what it's like. So what we're going to do in the breakout sessions, I want all of you to discuss what is one thing in your life that is interesting or important that you need to do an estimation on. So I'm going to actually, so now I'm changing what I put in the notes. And I want you to just tell me about one thing in your life that you can be doing a Fermi estimation. Yeah, so Gun, the link to watch is going to be in our Google Doc, and the Google Doc is in the in Slack, but I'll put it in the chat as well. In case you lose it, I'm using the same document for every single week. Okay, so the question I'm going to ask you, I'm going to put in the chat. What is one situation that you have faced in the last week that you could have used a Fermi estimation for? By the way, I'll let you know right now, my intuition is that I will be receiving about 2 hours notice to evacuate. And that is based on two things. The neighboring cities have been given, it looks like they were given about 6 hours notice from what I understand right now from the news. And also in the past, the cities that have received the worst smoke and fires are close to us and have not yet received an evacuation. So when they receive the evacuation, I will take that as a warning that we need to receive, that we need to get going. But we don't have the same risk level as some of the neighboring cities. So we're basically watching the cities. Oh, I am in Oakland, California. Yeah, Stephanie, I can talk about more about intuition in the workplace. Why don't we do that after the breakout session? Thank you for the question. Actually, do you want me to do that before the question or before the breakout session?
Whichever is good. Before or after.
Whichever is best.
Yeah.
After is fine too. Let me actually give you before. Maybe that will help you as you're thinking. So let me give you an example. Okay, great. So I did HR analytics, right? Also called people analytics. And so in the company, the company is trying to do diversity initiatives. It wants to make sure that the business is diverse. And my manager says to me, just like I did before the session, hey, Idris, I've got 30 minutes before my meeting with the CEO. And the CEO is my manager's manager's manager. So for my manager, it's a very big deal to talk to the CEO. He says, Idris, I have 30 minutes. I need any information you can give me on diversity. How good is our company at diversity? So now in 30 minutes, am I going to go and put together the kinds of assessments? Can you give me an assignment too? Unfortunately, no. As I said in the beginning, I only have an hour. So, they asked me, can I put together an estimate of how well the company is doing in diversity? So the way I did that assessment, right, is I do have the numbers. I have the percentage of people from different groupings based on a particular data set, but we don't have anything to compare it to. I don't have last year if it's gotten different. It's been different. I don't have I don't have the information about complaints. Many times people complain, and that helps you know, is this company bad for people who are coming from a certain community? I don't have any of that information, but what I do have is I have the information about the current breakdown of the group, and the decision I made was that I would use the data about what the comparison of the local city looked like. So I can compare what is the diversity of the city that our business is located to the diversity of the company. And I can do that comparison within 10 minutes, right? So I make that comparison, and then I make a bunch of caveats. And I say, here are 3 different points you need to make to the CEO. The best way we're going to do this analysis long-term, here are the points. We're going to track complaints. We're going to track who is applying to the business. We're going to track where we're doing diversity hiring from. So I name all of these considerations, but I do the quick analysis immediately and say, look, compared to the city, we have 5% less people, 5 percentage points less people of African descent than the area we live in. The area has 10% of the population is Black or African American, and the company has only 5% that is Black or African American, right? So immediately I can do this analysis. Stephanie, does that help answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. All right. So that with that, everybody, I want you to do your best to talk with each other, give each other help on trying to come up with one way that you can be having these kinds of conversations with, how do I say this? One way that you can be doing this kind of estimate in your own lives. So if you have a good idea how to do it, good. If your teammates do not, then help them think about what is one thing they can be estimating in their life that would be helpful. Give me a thumbs up if the assignment seems understandable. If the assignment makes sense to you, the homework. I'm getting no thumbs up. You don't understand what I'm asking you? Okay. All right, great, no thumbs up. So in the breakout session, I want you to discuss what is one number about your life that you can estimate. For me, I'm estimating how much warning I'm going to give if they tell me to evacuate my home, right? So for me, that is the number I'm estimating. What is the amount of time I get to evacuate my house? I want you to find a question. That's my question. How much time to evacuate my house? You need to find a question. Find one question that you can estimate using Fermi estimation or some other way you can estimate, that is a good question to have an estimate for. So does that help, Lowell? Got it? Okay, cool. Can I get more thumbs up? Everyone else get the question? Okay, good. So you're gonna figure out the right question, because half the time the right question is what matters. Answers anyone can give you. We want the right question to be asking. So figure out a good question for yourself to be asking. All right, everybody. You have 15, no, you don't have 15 minutes. You have 10 minutes to think about this. Give each person 5 minutes. Make sure that each one of you has at least one question that you feel like you can really try to come up with a good estimate. 3 of you will be in one room. So for those of you that have 3 people in your room, you have 3 minutes for each person. All right, everybody, good luck. And I will see you in 10 minutes. And David, I'm not sending you in a room. David, I'm keeping you here with me.
Okay.
Everyone else should be going to a room. And, oh, I see. Okay. The settings need to be changed for how this works. All right. That's okay. All right, David. So here's what I want to do with you. Oh, great. Okay. I love what you did. So what we're going to do, I'm going to actually, I want you to move your, I wanted to discuss this, this tracker, how we're using it. I want to just discuss it with you. So let's do a few different things here. So one of the things I want is that we're not going to use yes or present. We're just going to use ones and zeros for everything.
Okay.
And the reason for that is then I can get a simple running total. So again, you know, it's about the estimation piece, right?
Yeah.
All right. So what I'm going to do to make this easy on both of us. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and remove the validation on all this. All right, so David, my thought here, let me know what you think, but my hope is that just by showing everybody who's attending more, people might consider if they want to be participating a little bit more. What do you think about that? Do you think that's likely?
Yeah. That's a good idea. That's a good idea. It can be a motivating factor.
Yeah.
And also those attending, they can just say what they are gaining and to motivate someone to attend.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. I think my other hope here is that everyone can get an idea of like a very quick way to make data visualizations. So for me, when we do these kinds of exercises, we give ourselves an opportunity to quickly see how things are segmented, and that's a big part of how people are using analytics in companies.
Yeah.
So often when we think about data science from a technical perspective, we tend to overthink it. And we're interested in building very complex models. But the truth is that businesses don't have time for that.
Yeah.
Very few people have time for that. And it's only going to be on a select set of projects. You get very lucky when you get a project where you get to really build a good model. Most of the time, you're doing very quick data visualizations.
Mm.
Now, during the interview process, that gets tricky because oftentimes they'll want you to show that you can. That you can do the more complex analysis. If you're talking to somebody who has a deep skill set.
Yeah.
Tools, okay. Oh, this is great. Wonderful. You already made conditional formatting in here.
Mm.
All right, cool. All right, so David, let's talk about your situation as I'm doing this. Tell me, what's a situation that you can be using, you can be doing, a question you can be asking yourself to give like a meaningful estimate that will impact your life if you have a good estimate?
Okay. Past, or you asking of the past because okay, is it the same question that you asked the others?
It's the same question I'm asking the group.
Okay. Yes. It's one of the things that I can use estimation at is you see, I want to be somewhere as a data scientist, and I want to gain skills. So and there are many opportunities that I have at hand. You get that there's maybe, let's say there's another program like Tenacard. There's a course that is being offered free by IBM. There's a boot camp of data science somewhere. And so I need to estimate what will work best for me that can change my life as a data scientist. I need to estimate where to align myself with. Yeah, so like what will give me the best and bring the best out of me. So that's where I can use estimation at. I can just see this program, how far will it take me, how far it has taken people. If I enroll to Tenacard, how far will I be when I finish, and I will make an estimate. Yeah.
Great. So now give me one question. What's one question you can answer that will help you with that? So yeah, actually let's do this. So what I'm looking for you to do is be rigorous about breaking down the question you're asking, right? Because right now what you described to me is a whole segment of questions you have, right? There's a whole like bucket of things that are important to address, right? How helpful is Khan Academy? What kind of jobs can you get from Khan Academy? How much can you earn? What is your career potential? There's all these questions that you named there. Is that right?
Yes. So
what I want you to do.
Yes.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. No. Yeah. Give me one question. If you've got one, go for it.
Which program will put me at the highest? Yeah, that's a question I would like to answer.
Which program will do what? Which
program will scale up my skills?
Will scale up your skills. Great.
Yeah.
So you want to ask which program will scale up your skills. So now I want to be clear. That means we're asking a binary question, right? Or rather, like, yeah, I'm going to call it a binary because what you're almost saying is you're looking for a 0 or 1 of this program will scale up my skills. This program will not scale up my skills. This program will scale up my skills. This program will not scale up my skills, right? So you're making it a binary, right? So the problem with asking the question in that way is that it's very unlikely that any program is going to actually completely do nothing for you or completely give you everything, right?
Yeah.
So how can you modify that question to still be more helpful? Make that question more helpful, less binary.
Okay. I can ask myself, okay, what set of skills will I get from a certain program?
What set of skills will I get? Okay. So now that's also a great question. For this exercise, I want you to try to come up with a number. So now how about I offer you a question, a suggestion?
You ask me a question.
I'm going to offer you a question, and you tell me if this question is helpful for you to answer.
Go, do
okay.
ahead. Yeah.
Okay. So the question I think would be helpful for you to consider is, what is the estimated increase in how much David can earn from completing 10 Academy? Okay. What is the estimated increase in how much David can earn from completing 10 Academy?
Okay.
You tell me what you think about that question. Is it helpful? Is it not helpful? Why or why not?
Well, it will need, the question will, as in, what if David Elvis has some percentage of skills? And
say that one more time. Can you say it one more time?
Okay, what if David has some set of skills? And yeah, so how will we be able to measure how he has increased by taking 10 Academy program?
Yeah, so this is great. So now what you're starting to do, which is really valuable, is you're starting to model. By the way, I'm going to invite people back in, but I'm going to keep us discussing this. Now what you're starting to do is you're starting to model out what are the different relationships associated with how you earn, or how your potential, your earning potential is adjusted. And these will become like levers, right? Or the contributing factors is maybe one term we might use. So as you're determining the contributing factors, you might say, okay, my earning potential is related to my set of skills. I would tell you that that's only one contributing factor, the set of skills. The other thing that we're really talking about is not just the set of skills, but we're talking about the market value of those skills, right? Yeah. So it's the market value of those set of skills. So the contributing factor to the market value of David's set of skills are the set of skills and the individual value of each individual skill, right? So now we've got sort of a chain that we can do some estimates on, right? Yeah. The other thing that I would argue is that one of the things that contributes to David's earning potential is your capacity to network, to build relationships. Yeah. Because relationships are going to help you get that job. So, but it's not really just the capacity that's going to help you. What's really going to help you when you're trying to do your final calculation of what is your potential leaving 10 Academy to increase your earning potential. So everyone joining us back, David and I are talking about the question David's trying to answer. And the question David is going to be answering is, what is the estimated increase David can earn from completing 10 Academy? So what is the estimated increase in David's earning potential by completing 10 Academy, right? That's a question I want all of you to be thinking about. I also included a different question in the homework that's associated with your earning potential in hiring, getting hired. But that question, Dave and I are talking about right now. So 2 large contributing factors. Did we just lose David? Oh, I think we just lost him. All right, well, I can catch everyone else up. One of the things we're talking about is the earning potential of David is determined by the market value for David's set of skills. That's one piece. Give me a thumbs up if that makes sense for you. You understand that that's how it works for you? Great. Well, I really appreciate you're on video. That's helping me a lot. Anyone else who wants to come on video and join us, it helps me a lot. Everyone else, thank you for those thumbs up. Oh, thank you very much. Appreciate that one, will you? Oh, you tried. Okay, it didn't work. The video didn't work. All right. So 2, there we go. Thank you very much. So 2 major contributing factors. Thank you. Major contributing factors for your earning potential: the market value of your set of skills. And this, one of the other big pieces of this is going to be the access you have, your access to the hiring managers and HR people, the access you have, say it in simple, the access you have to the companies, right? Access to the companies is determined by relationships and your capacity to connect with people, right? So relationships that you currently have and your capacity to connect. So hopefully right now what's happening in your mind is you're building a tree. I'm going to build this tree out in our, actually in the notes, can you help me build this tree out? So the top level is what is the increase in your earning potential from 10 Academy? That's the top level. The second level in is what is the market value of your set of skills? The next level in on the market value of your set of skills, what are your set of skills? And what are the different values for each skill? Actually, I don't see you taking notes, Lal, so let me go ahead and just jump in and do this. I assume this is a question that everyone wants to think about. Is that right? Great. So often when I do this exercise for myself, welcome back, David. Often when I do this exercise for myself, I will actually write this out on a piece of paper, and I'll just have a visual flow for myself. When we're in a note document like Google Docs, writing this out as a breakdown is helpful, I think. All right. So can everyone join me in the Google document? I'm on the second page. And we've just done a quick breakdown of how I would look at that question. So now if I'm going to try to do an estimation, so now first of all, I could build a complex model for this. I know where the data sources are for this one. I've done a lot of this kind of analysis in the past. I don't have time for that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do an estimation. So how might I get an estimate for the market value for a data science skill set? Anyone got an idea how you would do that? Oh, each item, by the way, is in the Google document. Great, Glassdoor, Stephanie, wonderful. So now on Glassdoor, what is the earning potential for somebody who is a data scientist in your country? Let's start with making it select, to say in your country. And by the way, one of the things that we've got to do whenever we do an estimation or we build our model is we need to name our assumptions. And really, it's just not doing my analysis, but most meaningful to start this analysis in a single country, higher likelihood to get hired. Right, so that's an assumption I'm making. After I finish this estimate, I might change my mind, and I might do this estimate again as a freelancer, and say, you know, what can I do? What would this estimate look like if I tried to see if I want to do freelancing? And now you're starting to see how I can use a simple estimate then to actually make my decision. Should I focus on trying to get hired in my country, or should I focus on trying to get hired as a freelancer? Does that make sense? Give me a thumbs up if that's making sense. All right, great. So this is how we're going to be able to build on things. And again, you know, I'm emphasizing here the value of doing this stuff quickly. So this is the kind of question I want you to be thinking about and answering. Part of what's hard about some of these kinds of things you want to think about is that you're not going to have good data sources. Going back to Lawel's point, there are a lot of situations where you have to use your intuition. And so I want to give you a tool on how to think about your intuition, how to collaborate with your intuition to get a good percentage that you will use as you move forward. If we have more time in the future, I might point you at some more complex thinking. But for now, there's a write-up I've given in the past to people. I call it, the technique was taught to me and called Murphy Jitsu. Has anyone heard of Murphy's Law? Give me a thumbs up if you've heard of Murphy's Law. Okay, wonderful. Can you explain it to the group? Do you want to explain what Murphy's Law is to the group? By the way, I know we're at the end of the time, but I'm going to go about 15 minutes over again. And if you need to leave, feel free to leave. And if anyone who needs to leave, feel free to leave right now. You can just write in the chat that you need to go and just do the homework. Anyone else who wants to stay for 15 minutes, please stay with us.
Okay. Murphy's Law says that anything that can go wrong will go wrong.
Right, there you go. So Murphy's Law, the idea is that if you don't plan for a bad thing to happen, like if I don't plan that I'll get an evacuation order, I'm going to get an evacuation order. That's sort of the fundamental underlying thing. You have to plan for every risk because the risks are likely to end up badly. Now, one of the things that happens that we are doing with data science is we're trying to combat unconscious bias. Give me a thumbs up if you understand what unconscious bias is. Okay, great. Can somebody explain to the group, what is unconscious bias?
Unconscious bias is bias that you make without being conscious, or rather being actively knowing that you're making the bias.
Great. Can someone add to that? Go for it.
Bias is ingrained ways of thinking. So like there's an example of a riddle. A boy is brought into an operation room, and the person who is to operate on him is not his father. So who is operating on him? So most people now start thinking about maybe an uncle or something like that without just jumping to the immediate conclusion of a mother, because the unconscious bias is most surgeons are male.
Great, great. Yes, there's that little riddle. If a doctor's son is on the operating table, who is and the father is in the waiting room, who is the one operating, right? And a lot of people really struggle with that, and it's because there's that unconscious bias. Wonderful. Yeah, thank you for that example. What you're doing, yeah, social stereotypes, Ida, great. What you're doing when you are doing data science, what you're doing is you're fighting human unconscious bias. The human mind is great at pattern recognition. It is great at coming up with analysis. Today's most complex machine learning is still trying to learn how to recognize faces. Babies, children can recognize faces almost instantly. There's a number of studies that show how quickly our capacity to recognize faces develops. The human mind is great at pattern recognition. The thing that we're doing with data science is not novel pattern recognition. The thing we're doing is correcting unconscious bias. So to correct something, in order to correct a bias, you have to understand the bias. Where does the bias come from? Where does it live? The bias in your unconscious bias lives in your intuition. So you have to relate and understand your intuition, right? How do you understand your intuition? Part of how you understand your intuition is you understand what questions your intuition is answering in the first place. If you say to yourself, I should attend 10 Academy, you have unconsciously answered a question. You have not paid attention to the question. You've just said, I should attend 10 Academy. Why should you attend 10 Academy? Because your earning potential could increase. By how much? Because you're spending time here. You're spending your energy here. You could spend your time and energy in doing something else to increase your earning potential. Great. Lowell has an immediate answer, 200%. That's from your intuition, unless you did a calculation. Did you do a calculation, Lowell, on that? That's your intuition. Great. So I want to question that intuition. I want to check, is there unconscious bias in there? Can I get a better estimate? Because maybe, Lowell, the answer is 500%. Maybe the answer is 110%. Maybe it's only 5%. You're going to get a 5% increase. If you would get a 5% increase from 10 Academy, would you attend 10 Academy? It's a lot of work. I would not recommend you attend 10 Academy if you get a 5% increase on your earning potential. If you were to get 1,000% increase on 10 Academy, would you do anything else with your time? Probably not. You would just spend all of your time right here, right? So you need to know what is the likelihood, what is the increase in your earning potential that you're expecting to get. That determines how much time you're spending on the homework you're doing. That, even like something like this, where you're not totally sure what exactly it's used for, you'll think, okay, I need to use this immediately. I need to be in every single opportunity that 10 Academy gives me, right? So these are the kinds of things that we want to be doing estimates on. Important decisions that influence the way we behave. And what we want to remember is when we go into the workplace, even during our interviews, when you're talking to an interviewer who is non-technical, they want you to be able to talk to them in a way that they can relate to. So you need to be talking about their intuition. You need to be talking about unconscious bias. You need to be talking about how you're going to help them, how you are going to help them better inform their intuition, right? And if you don't know how to do that for yourself using data science, you can't do it for anybody else. Can you give me a thumbs up if that makes sense? All right, great. Thank you for this participation, my friends. So now your homework for next week is a lot of different items I'm giving you. Ultimately, this is all for your own benefit, so you do whatever feels good to you, okay? The first item is Murphy Jitsu. This is one of the techniques I personally use to understand what my intuition thinks is the probability of success. All of us have an unconscious bias where we overestimate success. And so when we make plans, we make bad plans because we think everything is going to go right with the first plan we come up with. Murphy Jitsu is a technique to help you overcome the unconscious bias I think it's called the planning fallacy is what it's called. One of the other things I think you should all take a look at, since we've only lightly talked about unconscious bias, I want you to research unconscious bias on Wikipedia. Wikipedia has a list of a large number of unconscious biases. I want you to take a look at those. In particular, I want you to read bike shedding. This is one of the most dangerous biases that will affect companies, businesses, and yourselves. If you get into an interview and you can explain to your interviewer what bike shedding is and they've never heard about it before, they will love you. They would be shocked. They'll be like, oh my goodness, this person's brilliant. So I want you to understand what bike shedding is. You should be using it daily in your own thinking. You should check, am I doing this unconscious bias of bike shedding? Make sure you watch the Fermi video. It's also, the link is in the homework.
Can you please type it in the text box?
Sorry, yeah, did you have a question?
Please type what you just said in the text box, what we should check out.
I'm not hearing you though.
Can you please put it in the text box where you asked us to look up just now about the interviewer? Like, can you put it in the text box?
Oh, yeah, it's on the document. It's on the Google document. Okay. Yeah. So if you go down to the second page, homework for next week is where I'm keeping track of all this. Thanks for checking. And okay, so number 4, I want you to do a Fermi estimation on how many applications you think you will need to submit in order to get a job as a data scientist. Many people lose hope because they think in their minds they need to submit 3 or 4 applications, and in reality they need to submit many more. And so they don't actually do the work they need to. So I want you to come up with your own estimation. What is the likely number of applications you need to submit in order to get your data science job? This will help you stay grounded as you go through the process. And then share, you should try to really honestly do a Fermi estimation every day. Learn how to ask these questions well. So let me now hear from you. Give me a question. In your group discussion, all of you talked about what questions you should be answering. I've already given you a couple of different examples. I want to hear from you. What is one Fermi estimation you could be doing that would be helpful for your life? So I'm going to remind you, if you don't know how to make data science useful, no one's going to want to hire you. You need to make sure that estimations can be useful, right? So give me one place in your life where you can be using an estimation.
Can I try? Yeah, so we discussed with my colleague Rofia. So ours was like, how long does it take you to get to work or to school? So based on how far you stay or based on the weather, like today it rained. And so you have to have an estimate so that you are able to plan adequately. Okay,
great. So great. I like that you're telling me what you're making it based on. I see both Rafaya wrote it in the chat and you just said it now. How long it takes you to get to work. Okay, great. I'm going to add one more piece to this assignment. I want you to tell me what the value is. What is the value of having an accurate estimation? So give me, for that example, what is the value of having an accurate estimation?
Sorry, please, I don't understand value. What do you mean by value? Like, do you mean the time?
It could be time. It could be something else. But anytime, ultimately, the thing I want you to learn is how to make data science useful to the people who are going to hire you. How to make it useful. So part of asking good questions is to ask, am I asking a question that if I had the right answer, would it change anything in life? Would it make life better? So we want to ask, how does it make things better? Does that make it, do you understand the question now?
Can I try?
Yeah, go for it.
So like, I think of it as this way. So like, maybe my work colleagues or a client could see me as somebody who is punctual, regardless of the situation. So I think that builds more, that adds more value to me as a person within the organization. So if I'm supposed to meet a client or if I'm supposed to do a presentation, they always know that I'm on time since I'm able to plan well. I have factored in all those factors that can affect me. So I think that's how it will increase my value.
Okay, so the question here would be, what is the likelihood, or actually let me frame it this way. The question here would be, how many coworkers are going to give a positive recommendation for me to other people? Did I get the question right? Does that seem right?
Yeah, you got it right.
Okay. So make sure you frame the question well, because I can ask that question as, how likely will anyone give a positive recommendation? That becomes a percentage. The other question I can ask is, how many people will give a positive recommendation? That becomes an absolute number. If I have an absolute number that I'm thinking about, then I might be able to increase that number in a more meaningful way. Because if I'm just aiming to get one person to give me a recommendation, like that's not as helpful as aiming to get 5 or 6 people to give me a recommendation, right? So I want you to keep thinking about asking good questions, high value questions. So this question in the chat, I really love this. Will I submit my challenge submission in time? That's great. That's a great question. You want that percentage because it's sort of a binary situation. If you don't submit in time, there's negative consequences. Wonderful. Oh, I love this. How long before the power cuts out from the moment it starts raining? That's a brilliant question. Because if you know that, you can plan, right? You can do so much the minute it starts raining. You know how much time you have. Great question. Great. Yes. Based on normal expenses, can I know how much I will save? Great. So now that one, hopefully that one you're going to have lots of data about, right? So that one should become an easy one that you always know. So you might start asking more hard questions about the expenses piece. If I have an emergency, what is the likelihood I can afford the emergency? You can keep taking that one further, right? Money is a great place to be doing this. If you can do this in your own personal finances, in your family's finances, then when you work for a company, talking about revenue, expenses, and profit will be very easy for you, right? So if you're not the most trusted person about finances in your home, consider why that is. If you're planning to work for a business, you want to be somebody who can be very trusted to talk about profit and to talk about costs and to talk about revenue. Does that make sense to everybody? Give me a thumbs up. Okay. All right, everybody. Do you feel clear on what I'm asking you to do for this week's homework? Have I given you too much homework? Yeah, I think I give you a lot of homework. All right, it's all for your benefit. Do whatever you like to do. I will ask you next week how it went, what you did. I know we've basically taken a lot more time than I intended to take. There's a lot of information I'm hoping to share. Yeah, thank you for saying that. I'm glad to hear it's worth it. I want you all to do the feedback form again. Let me find that link for you. And I'll ask all of you to give me feedback on the session. And let me just get a sense. Oh no, actually, yeah. Let me just get you. I'm just going to get you this feedback form, and then all of you can tell me. All right. If you have any other questions, feel free to write them in the chat right now. Thanks, Gerald. I really appreciate the well wishes. I've been thinking about how I would handle an evacuation order while on the chat or while on Zoom. But yeah, thank you for that. All right, everyone, please fill out the form. And if you have questions, you can write them in the chat as well. Oh, by the way, I just want to give a side note. Remember, we're data scientists, so our job is not only to understand the data, it's to get the data. And the reason I do feedback forms is because this is part of my practice as being a data scientist. So I try to make sure I always am doing this. You'll be surprised by how few people get data about their sessions, but are still trying to practice data science. Friends, I see some of you sharing that you'd like to spend more time. I appreciate that. Yeah, unfortunately, I don't have as much time as I would like to be supporting all of you with this. But hopefully, you get what you can out of this, and we stay in touch over time. I'll make sure you all have my email. So after the sessions are over, you can feel free to reach out to me. And one thing I want to note as people are wrapping up, so I included it in the Google document, but I want to just give us a chance to get a sense of, how much we're participating and being involved in some of these sessions. So I asked David to help me with this tracker. And I think Wamuyu was the only one who tried the pre-work. But you'll get a sense, right, based on how people are participating in the conversations you participate in at work, how reliable people are. And that's something that happens pretty subconsciously. And again, what we're trying to do is uncover the unconscious bias. We're trying to understand it more deeply and understand it better, and understand what really matters. So a few of the things I want to do for you is make this visible. Sometimes you're actually not going to change people's thinking about their bias. Sometimes you're just going to make it more obvious so that everyone has the same information. And that's what I'm trying to do with you here. You can see in the way I'm laying this out, this is what I end up noticing as I'm helping you, right? As I'm supporting you as a teacher. And I'm a data scientist. I apply to data science jobs. Sometimes I hire data scientists to work on teams with me, to support me in the work I do, right? So I'm a potential employer for you. So the relationship that we build here is one of the many relationships that can help you get a job, right? So I want you to have some visibility in how I'm looking at you, right? So these are the kinds of things I'm looking at. I mean, these are the kinds of things I think about, right? And right now, Lau, David, Wayumu especially, your attention, the attention you have of me is very high, right? And so I want to keep encouraging all of you. Now, I'm not tracking everything in here. There's actually a lot of things. For example, the fact that Gerald, Sagun, you're both showing video. I'm actually paying attention to that. I haven't written it down in the tracker yet. But these are the kinds of things I'm going to notice, right? So I want to keep encouraging you all to think about what are you doing to build those relationships, because those are some of the non-technical skills that are going to make you a good data scientist, both when you're trying to get hired as well as once you're in the company. If you can't build relationships with the people you're trying to support, you're not going to be able to succeed in that business. And during COVID times, us learning how to do this via Zoom is actually very key, very essential. All right, my friends. I think that's pretty much it. Does anyone have any questions or thoughts, things they want to share?
So about the notes I took, should I just share it on the Slack channel? The note I took, should I just share it on the Slack channel?
You can share this on the Slack channel. Yeah, you can share anything that I've shared here on the Slack channel. Yeah, and I'm going to try to see if I can make a consistent Zoom link, but I can't guarantee that right now. So just look out again 30 minutes before the call for the Zoom link. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for coming. I appreciate your time, and we'll see you in a week. Good luck with your homework. Bye. Good to see you, David.
Okay, thank you.
See you.
Cheers.
Take care, Sagun. Stephanie, thank you. Where is your name? Let me filter it, and that'll be, there we go. Stephanie, did you do last week's homework?
I tried, but just getting a particular scenario was quite hard for me.
Yeah. You know the problem. You know, one thing I realized, Stephanie, is that video actually matters a lot. So I'm not saying you. I'm not forcing you, but I can tell you, in the Zoom world, it makes a big difference.
Yeah.
And I have a professor who's done research on this work. She studies what's called computer-supported collaborative work. It's the field of science that studies how we work together via the internet and other things. And she's like just absolutely proven it. If you want to build trust in a relationship, the absolute least helpful is text only. If you only use text, you build like this much trust. If you use video and text, you build more trust. If you use video and audio, you build a lot more trust. And then if you're in person, it's the best. It's absolutely the best. But if you're using video and audio together, it's actually a lot more powerful than any other combination.
I think it's quite important to the speaker. Let's do the once we're listening. So, but next time I'll find a nice spot where I can just stand on my feet. But thank you so much for the sessions.
You're very welcome. And I want you to understand, it's not a request from me. It's more, I want you to get information. I want you to be learning about, you know, what happens, right?
Yeah. Thank you.
All right. Have a good week. Bye.
Okay. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye, David.
Bye.